As for ETFs, yes, these big boys are adding. BlackRock has over 1.4 billion of Bitcoin in their ETF. Fidelity also has over 1.4 billion, and Bitwise and ARK both hold about $500 million. Okay, you add it all together, it's a lot. Okay, they're buying a lot. But what's also happening is Grayscale is selling a lot. In fact, yesterday they sold 640 million worth of Bitcoin from their fund. And it seems like that's escalating. It seems like every single day there's more and more flows outwards from Grayscale. Right now, if you look at a total flow 7-day, you'll see that Grayscale sold approximately 3.5 billion of Bitcoin from their ETF. Okay, and they have 21.5 billion left to go. But the good thing is, if you look at the others, the 11 others, they're eating it up. So if you add Fidelity and BlackRock and Bitwise and ARK, Invesco and everything, it's a net positive, meaning there's still more Bitcoin going into these ETFs than coming out, despite Grayscale selling so much. But why is Grayscale selling so much? There's a number of reasons for that. A lot of insiders that's been holding for years upon years upon years upon years, they may want to cash out because finally they have an opportunity to do so. But there's also one in particular that's been selling more than everyone else. And I hate to say it, the ghost of SBF is back, sort of. The new FTX. They're going through bankruptcy procedure and trying to recover and trying to relaunch. I don't know what happened there, if they are truly trying to relaunch, but supposedly they got all the money back. And here's one way of getting their money back: by selling and dumping their Grayscale shares. So they sold approximately $1 billion worth of Bitcoin from Grayscale's Bitcoin ETF. So out of the 3.4 billion that has been sold, well, at least 1 billion of that is from FTX alone. And of course, they had to wait until Grayscale converted their trust into ETF in order to do so, because before, if you think about it, trust was actually pretty good. Grayscale's trust just allows Bitcoin to come in, but never allows Bitcoin to come out, right? But now it goes both ways. But we can't blame Grayscale, because Grayscale was the one that allowed, that fought the SEC and won and allowed ETFs to even come to be, right? So can't fault Grayscale for that. They can't really control whether or not FTX decides to sell $1 billion. And hopefully they don't have any more to sell, right? But there are still a lot of outflows. But right now, the good thing is the other ETFs are eating it up. Again, I've been saying this for a while, right? These big boys are not going to stop eating it up. They're replenishing their funds right now, or not replenishing, they're filling up their newly created funds. And they're not going to stop until those funds are filled with tens of billions, hundreds of billions worth of Bitcoin, just like Grayscale, right? Grayscale still has 21.5 billion. It's just a matter of time before you see BlackRock's have 21 billion, and then Fidelity's has 21 billion. And then not too long after that, you go see it with 50 billion or 100 billion worth of Bitcoin in there. It's not going to stop. And this is just within their fund. That does not mean that these guys can't be holding Bitcoin in other wallets too that they control, that they're loading up on, right? We just don't know. But we know with the scarcity of Bitcoin getting more scarce, there's just not that much to go around. So I decided to load up, I got to remove my camera here. I decided to load up CryptoQuant and looked at the miner outflows for all the miners. And you could see, since ETF approval, there's a lot of these big green bars, and these are outflows, okay? Before, you would have little outflows. Now you're having massive outflows, like the one that happened right here a few days ago. 40,475 Bitcoins being sold. That's approximately $1.5 billion. So when you have a weak market, Bitcoin was hovering around 41,000, and then you have 1.5 billion being sold. Of course, that's going to make a big impact and drop Bitcoin below 40,000 to 30s, and that's where we are. So the miners seem like they're still selling. And I've covered this before. I said miners, it's not like the miners are like FTX and just dumping because they want to get out. It's because they're trying to prepare for the halving event. They're trying to prepare. They need that money to continue to operate, to buy more infrastructure, to buy more equipment, right? They want to stay competitive in this space because it's not just one miner. There's a dozen miners, and they're competing with pools too. So everyone is trying to load up, I believe, on new equipment, and they need money for that. But it's unfortunate that they're doing it now, right? They probably didn't know that Grayscale and FTX were also selling, and then on top of that, they're selling. Of course, that's a lot of selling. Even with all the buying, can't overcome all the selling, right? So waiting for this to stop as well. So when the miners realize, okay, we sold enough, we have impacted the price way too much, let's stop, that's when Bitcoin can recover, I believe. There's just too much selling right now. But here's the good news. The halving event is 3 months away. And these big boys that I mentioned, I mean, it's not like we really want them to buy up all the Bitcoin there is. Over 100,000 Bitcoins accumulated in just 7 days, just 1 week. What about a second week? Another 100,000, third week, 100,000, fourth week, 100,000. I mean, you get my picture, right? So these big boys continue to buy up despite some selling. Eventually, that's going to catch up. Again, not to say this is good long term. We don't want these big boys to be each holding a million plus Bitcoin. That just gives them way too much control. That's why we need to take advantage while we still can and grab some while things are still cheap. That's why when things are down, you think of it as a buying opportunity, a gift. You could buy Bitcoin and crypto at a discount, a steep discount. That's the best way to think about it. So we have these big boys still buying. We have, let's say, lesser big boys like whales that are still buying. For example, someone, right, just transferred $100 million, okay, into Binance. What do you think they're going to do with that money? It's not like they're converting it to cash. They already have a USDT. So they're going to be buying. So you have the big institutions that will continue to load up. You have the whales that are now coming back and realizing, well, this is a pretty good buying opportunity, right? And, of course, we got the big halving event that's coming up in 3 months and other catalysts that's coming later this year, just within months, not years, months, right? Because all these things, that's why we need to hold strong. We need to do what these guys are doing. We need to continue to ignore the FUD, accumulate, hold all, and that is the game plan. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing changes. When Bitcoin was at 16,000, when it was at 20,000, when it was at 26,000, when it was at 30,000, 40,000, the game plan is the same.